Welcome everyone, this is Alex for the Coaster Spot, and today we're back at Hersheypark for Wildcat's Revenge construction update number 18, filmed on April 29th. Now, if you haven't been around watching the 17 previous updates, you should go do that. But just a little context, this is going to be a new coaster opening up hopefully in the next month, built by Rocky Mountain Construction, the leader in intense, crazy roller coasters for the last 10 years or so, and we're in the home stretch. This was a Great Coasters International coaster known as Wildcat and opened in 1996, but now it's unrecognizable. They have changed so much. It is now a steel coaster, and they were very busy this week installing a total of 27 pieces of track, and there will be more to come in this video actually. And here is the first drop. That's the big news with the lift hill and a bunch of the mechanical pieces at the top. And all day long they were working on bolting up and finishing all the connections. So once stuff is placed, it's just placed kind of temporarily, and then they have to go back and tighten everything, torque everything, have everything ready for trains to run along the track. But there's that first drop, and it looks quite good. It is 82 degrees, so not quite 90 degrees obviously, but comment down below, do you know a park that has more coasters that are near or beyond 90 degrees in one park? Hersheypark is up to now 4. Cedar Point is up to 4 as well, with Money Force, Maverick, Steel Vengeance, and we'll count Top Thrill Dragster. But we should have an idea of what this should feel like, because most RMC drops are very similar, which is a good thing. They're all awesome. Here are the mechanics. So you can see that the train trough and anti-rollbacks have been installed. There's still a lot of work to be done with those though before the chain can be installed, but that should be happening very soon. Now we are up at the gardens for some views of the zero-G roll. We'll have very up close and personal ones inside of the park in a moment, but there is the first zero-G roll, and it looks so cool with all those vents going every which direction. Incredible, really it is. But the view from up here is pretty much done. I mean, other than the catwalk being finished, it's going to look almost identical from now on. So we will not focus too much more with updates up there. It's just not necessary until testing starts, which could be pretty soon. And I love those two airtime hills right next to each other, practically in parallel from this view. It looks awesome. And again, that zero-G roll looking awesome. So that's about it from the gardens. It's provided us some amazing views, good times. I'm ready not to go there unless I'm visiting the gardens, which I highly recommend. Now inside the park, it was very exciting, and that's why this construction update is so long, because they were doing a lot of lifting today. As you can see, the midway was just completely blocked off because track was literally on the midway, and access was a little bit denied, but easy to get around. So here are the 6 pieces of track that were just hanging out. That will change very soon. And all the signature has been installed, I believe. The Wildcat's Revenge logo on the side of the train storage building. I still hope there's a little bit more to come with that, since the black wall is very, very plain. Here's the entrance cupola with the sign. It is pretty much identical to the logo that we know that's on merchandise, that's on the website. It's pretty much identical, but it looks pretty sharp. Still no crossmember to span those poles, but I assume that will all contain the signature for exit, fast track, maybe single rider, whatever. Just another look at the storage building with the new logo. And just in case you forgot what ride you were on, Hersheypark has you covered with an identical sign as to the entrance as you're entering back into the station. So you'll never forget the amazing ride that you just experienced. Hersheypark provided some amazing photos of the trains. Go check those out. But here they are. And what's exciting about them is, though, they've been moved around from the front station to the back station. So that leads me to believe there has been some amount of testing taking place. Obviously not full circuit testing, but all those sensors in the station is a lot of what the testing makes up. And here's the zero-G roll completed from that angle. Looks amazing with those track pieces just sitting on the berm, just hanging out. Looks pretty awesome. And as I said, we're going to show you some progress, sped up a little bit, just to show you the entire progress, but not take up too much of your time. And while that piece of track was floating, I got distracted because another one of these batter braces were going up inside of the helix. So many of these went up that I lost count. It was like one every half hour, if that. It was crazy how quickly these were installed. But there's not a lot of connections to them, so it makes complete sense why they were able to do these so quickly. But I feel like they did like half of the entire helix in just half a day. And here is the area where that track is going to go. And here it is going up, starting to be lifted into place. And we're going to show you this one in real time just to get you an idea of how long it takes them to lift things and get it into place. And it's a good time to also remind you to subscribe, comment, and maybe hit that bell for instant notifications when a video comes out, as well as take a look at the Instagram account where I do live updates on my stories as the park is open, and on Twitter where I will post usually a teaser pic and high resolution photos after the construction updates goes up as well, and that is Coaster Spotting on Twitter. If you're wondering where the drone shots are, don't worry, they're coming. You probably noticed the weather was absolutely terrible while we were at the gardens, so we had to wait for a little bit later, so stay tuned to the end of the video. Now, if you hadn't noticed, the track wasn't quite in the correct angle. I believe that was done because they needed to slot it into the structure that's already been placed. And then once they were ready to rotate it, they were just cranking on that winch to get it right in place. And this is amazing, these guys. That track was very slippery as it was misty for most of the morning. And track is not even bolted in any way. So once again, props to all the construction workers. Thank you so much for making this amazing ride for us. And then a little while after a bunch of adjustments have been made, the track could finally be lowered in to align with the previous track piece and then be bolted together. And then a little while later, they were starting to get all those other connections in place. Of course, there'll be more bents that will have to be installed because those portions of the rail that have no paint is where another saddle will be placed. And while we were waiting, another batter brace was installed. And this is not sped up. This is how quickly things are lowered down into place. You can see it's just 2 bolts, really. It's really simple. And here is the final wrestling of one of those saddles into place to get them aligned so they can put those bolts in, thread them in. And now we'll take a little bit of a break from the process of adding stuff and just show you some shots of the lift hill straight on with that catwalk right next to it and the 0G roll completed. That is just going to be an amazing view to watch this from, right next to the kettle corn stand if you're wondering. Now, next week I'll probably do a full park update finally, since it's been over a month since the park has been open. But there's just a little things I touched. They resurfaced the East Coast Waterworks and are working on slides, getting all that stuff done. Looks absolutely fantastic and nice and bright. The Dry Gulch Railroad has finally reopened. I'm not sure what the delay was, possibly with the train barn being repaired or replaced. Just took them a little bit longer to get everything together. And this was actually the first time the train was being pulled out over to guests. Over in Midway America, the Granny Bugs and Pony Parade are getting their wooden shingle roofs replaced. It seems like all those are going to be replaced. Hopefully Lightning Racer doesn't, because I love the wood look of Lightning Racer, and it would be a shame if it just has a steel tin roof. And another view of that lift hill just dominating the area, and work being done to, I believe, align the trough and anti-rollbacks. They get them in place, but then they need to be winched into their proper location. And here are some of the bolts on the truss structure being torqued up to their final specification, and that line there is being drawn across the bolt and the nuts so maintenance can see if they've moved at all. Here is the turn into the lift hill. It's very hard to see. D-banks little flat section and it goes straight into the lift hill. So it's connected. It wasn't last week. Now it is. As you can see, one piece of track is missing as they lifted up that one, and now there are only 5 pieces remaining over there, and some close-up of that RMC track. And the portion of the helix that will probably be the last to be connected, leading into the final zero-G roll. And a little while later, of course, another rail was being prepped to be connected and then lifted into place right next to the one that we previously saw being lifted. And then some winching done to fine-tune it for its lift. And now we're going to come over to this location and be right below it, more or less, as it's being lifted into place. This was so neat to be so close. It's crazy that the park boundaries are this close and there weren't any fences to push you back a little bit further, I felt. So here it is at 10 times the speed. Let's just watch until we get distracted by something else happening. And there we go. As they were lifting the other track, of course, another one of those batter braces, those steel batter braces, was being installed into the helix area. As I said, these were going up like weeds. And there it is in place a little bit while later. And the other track piece being slotted into that structure. It was quite interesting to watch them have to slot everything in. Obviously, this is a lot easier than, like, let's say, Steel Vengeance's last trip through the structure. I can't even imagine what they had to do to get pieces into that structure in comparison to something that's newly built. And there's a lift hill as we pan up to see one of the construction workers that we saw previously has moved up the lift hill a little bit more, doing whatever he was doing. But as we can see, the chain is clearly not in yet. But next week, I think it will be. Now we're outside the park. Here is the final turn. Obviously, there's a piece of track missing there, but you can't see it because the tree's in the way anyways. But here's a dead side view of that 82-degree drop. It looks like it has a little bit of a kink to it. So, hello, Skyrush? I don't know. It's looking pretty good. Cannot complain. Looking fantastic. That second cog has been installed since our last update. And we'll pan down to the steepest point of the drop right there as it starts to level out. Now onto the drone. We waited until the gardens were closed and stayed far, far away from the open park and got a quick flight in. And look at that storage lot on the bottom there. 4 pieces of track. They also got rid of a lot of the old structure that had been just lying around that was removed from Wildcat. And there is not left. There are only 12 pieces of track to be installed. So 8 more for the helix and then 4 more that are currently right next to their gap, which is only there because of that crane that's in the middle of the structure. So as soon as they don't need that crane anymore, they'll move it out, build up the few bents that need to be placed, and then put the structure in. Something that will probably take no more than a day to do. So those will probably be, if I were to guess, the last 4 pieces of track to be installed after they finish the helix. We can see that not much has changed with the queue line. I think some poles are starting to go up, lighting. They don't need to worry about much of a security fence for the lockout area because most of it was already in place. They just need to probably build a few new ones where the layout has changed a little bit, right close to the entrance line. While I didn't show it, it did seem like there was a little bit more activity in the queue line getting it all together for final preparations and all that stuff, so we'll see. But just everything's just looking like they're wrapping up, because they are. No lockers yet installed for the pass-through lockers, the free ones, but I don't even really need to get out my graphics to point out things, because there's really not much to show as it's wrapping up. And it's really neat to see that first drop. If you don't remember, the first pieces of track were at the bottom of the first drop, so 5 months later they finally connected it all up, and that's really neat to see for sure. Anyways, thanks for watching. This has been Alex for the Coaster Spot. We'll be back, of course, next week to see this structure complete. Hopefully the chain installed and testing happening soon there afterwards. Thanks again. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.